Nairobi Senator Edwin Sifuna is in the studio this morning, as well as ODM Secretary General. That still stands, does it not?
As far as I know.
As far as you know.
I don't know. I don't know what you have had.
As CT would say, this is Kenya. You could go to bed on a Thursday night and wake up on a Friday morning and things are totally different. But for the purposes of this conversation, we'll keep it that, shall we not?
Yes.
Senator, good morning.
Good morning, and thanks for having me. I was just laughing here. We've had stories about how this company is doing. But for somebody to pull a sachet of coffee from his pocket for my drink is very worrying.
No, you must understand.
I don't know. I don't know what is going on.
Is it only coffee?
There used to be a kitchen in this place.
There is a kitchen.
There's a kitchen in CT's bag.
But how is it? How is it that City is pulling coffee from his pocket?
What do you want? Just say what you want.
I wanted coffee from the kitchen. I didn't want to exhaust City's private stash.
No,
you know?
It's just that you don't know.
How are you guys doing? I'm now expressing genuine concern for your well-being. Do you guys have to bring stuff from your... What is going on, City?
I always have.
City's like our resident Santa Claus.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he's always got a bag of goodies. It doesn't really matter what you want.
Well, as long as you promise me that you guys are okay, then it's fine.
The thought and care.
We hear things just like you are hearing things about weather.
The thought and care is duly noted, and it really is great.
Asante
coming
sana.
from you, Asante Sana.
Yes.
On that note, City has a proverb. It's an
As
interesting
always.
one. So let him tell us what that is and where it's from, and then maybe you can say.
Perhaps maybe let's exhaust his benevolence. Can I have one of your pens?
Bus,
Okay.
Don't blow.
which color do you want?
Maybe have that one. Thank you.
The proverb is also from his pocket.
Yes. Let's do it.
All right, go.
Final proverb from the Republic of Cote d'Ivoire. When the finger knows not where to go, it goes into the nose.
Sina maoni mimi. Sina maoni. What does that one mean?
It's you to tell us.
I have no idea. You're the only one here with grey hair. Probably,
wow.
Over the years that you spend on this earth, you probably have encountered this nose finger situation. Maybe you can tell us what.
Oh, come on,
Yes,
Senator.
yes, yes.
Give it a think.
I have no idea. I have no idea what that is.
Actually, what we're interested in knowing is that no idea of yours. That's what we want to
I
know.
have no idea what those West Africans are up to.
Actually, you don't
know.
and you're probably right. But what we want to know is what you think, not what you
I have
think.
no thoughts.
Not
Okay,
what you
hear it
think.
again.
No thoughts.
No,
Hear it
Edwin,
again.
Not what you think they were thinking.
Yeah.
Your
But just
interpretation
what you think.
of it.
I don't
City,
know.
tell him the proverb again.
All right. Let him take a sip of his coffee.
I don't know if it will help if we hear it 3 times.
Even
In
what?
your case,
The way my mind works is once you encounter
no.
something, if you don't have thought about it,
Edwin, in your
it's
case,
not going to happen.
in your case, a repetition will help. So let me just repeat it, okay?
Okay.
When the finger knows not where to go, it goes into the nose.
Sina maoni. Sina maoni. It feels like a trap. Like I might say something that is not too kosher on national radio.
National radio is where you say things which are not kosher. Then everybody gets to hear.
No. Hiyo utanielezea wewe.
It's going to come out at some point, you know. Okay, and it will probably come from you.
All right.
So maybe for this one, we'll give you a special pass, but then we can CT can tell you what he thought about it. Yeah.
And you can share your thoughts as well. I have also not been introduced to the lovely lady on my left.
This is Doris
the first time I've
Anki Ombat.
Okay.
You've
Doris.
seen her before.
Yes.
Where?
I actually
On
saw you
KTN.
once. KICC.
Really?
Do you remember a lady who said we need to interrogate a few things here and there? You said,
Oh, in my office?
yeah.
Oh, okay.
All right, good memory.
She's our
Sorry,
guest
bro.
host. She's our guest host today.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
Nice. It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Senator.
These two I'm a bit familiar with. And, they've been my friends
Okay.
for a long time. So.
We've been friends for a long time, indeed.
What the fingers are, well, the function of the fingers are known, okay? And the fingers traverse everywhere and anywhere. Yes. But the most important thing is the fingers are part of your body, okay? And because they are, you assume and you ascertain that there are certain functions that you accustom them to, okay? Now, many a time, they also help tell the world how we are feeling. Like, if I'm anxious, I will be twiddling my fingers.
Like this.
Yes. Yes. This. Or I will be scratching my neck. Or if I'm really, really stressed, I'll probably be touching my nose. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, those are purposeful. But when your mind is elsewhere and you're not doing something, or I gave the example earlier on, when say today is Friday, and unlike you who plans his days well, somebody has not planned his day. So when a friend calls you and tells you we need to go out of town, you say, that's a good plan. The problem with going out of town is it involves spending money. Come Monday, you suddenly find there's money you thought you had and you don't have it. And you're wondering, where did that money go? Yes, so that's what happens. Things that you ordinarily do, if you don't have a plan and you let other people plan for you, many, many things can go wrong.
Okay.
Let's
That's
see.
one way of looking at
That
it.
is one way of
Definitely.
looking at it as an opinion.
Yes.
All right, so
Ah,
let's jump into it, Senator.
Yes.
There have been a number of things that have been going on. One of them, of course, we cannot run away from the politics of the nation.
Absolutely.
At the time where we see things changing. And of course, we'll take it from your hat of the ODM Secretary General, whereby we have seen things change on the political landscape. In the sense that, coalitions, maybe they don't now have the same numbers that they did. Opinions have changed because a luminary in the name of Raila Odinga has now maybe shifted in terms of his positioning, what he does with politics. What it means then for parties because things have moved in terms of cabinet secretaries' appointments and things like that. What does it portend? There's a shake-up, it would appear, or are things still okay, for lack of a better word?
Well, increasingly, I'm hearing a lot of discussions about heart. I don't know why. I don't know if it's a coincidence or what is going on. Because, City, you will remember, I tried to be, or I had aspired to move from my position as SG of the party and move up to the deputy party leader's position, which in my view was a promotion. But I was given this story about heart, that there are certain positions that are at the heart of the party, that you cannot vacate to seek others, and so on and so forth. So it's very interesting that you're being employing the same terminology to ask me questions about the status of a party. One of the things I want to start off by saying is that we will write our own story. We will tell our own story. And as I've said before, the truth does not change depending on who believes it or whether people believe it or not. So I have seen a concerted effort for people to write the story of ODM and where we are. And it doesn't matter how well you explain yourself. People have already made up their minds. They're like, we no longer believe anything that you say. That's fine. That is up to you. But the truth does not change depending on who or whether, in fact, people believe it.
What is the
I have seen efforts by others to push us into government. My friend Natembea is notorious for that, saying ingia huko ndani na mubaki huko ndani. I'm like, bro, si wache sisi wenyewe, we make decisions about our own futures and where we stand. Others are pushing us out of other things. I've seen people saying ODM now needs to leave Azimio.
Yes.
Yesterday I wake
somebody
up.
else a chance to lead.
Yes, I wake up and a major publication in the country has a screaming headline saying Raila retires. And when you read the story, what you expect is to see a quotation from Raila saying, I have now had enough of local politics, I am retiring. There is no such quotation. I mean, let the man speak for himself. Let the party speak for itself. What is this desire that suddenly people have to tell our stories? It's not as if we are hatujashindwa kuongea, mdomo wetu haijaenda mahali.
So what is the story?
I want to explain something here. Nipe tu time. You see, Kenya has become a very interesting place. I don't know what people expect. I've seen people saying, we don't see Sifuna going to media anymore. Because they don't know how you people work. This station does not belong to my mother. I have to be invited here. City, why am I here? How am I here?
Because we invited.
Who called me? Did I call you?
No,
You called me and asked me if I can share insights. Somebody says, I've not heard you speaking in Senate since. Senate is on recess, for heaven's sake. You want me to just go there and address the public? I've also, through my social media, tried to let people know where I've been. I was in the US for almost 2 weeks for the Democratic National Convention, took opportunity to meet with Kenyans there. All of those things, I've told people where I am. Then there's people making careers on social media explaining where Sifuna is. I mean, I have told you where I am. So let me tell you where the party is.
Okay.
ODM remains an opposition party. We are a member of the minority party in the National Assembly. And in the Senate, and we will continue to execute our role in that capacity. I was elected to the Senate to exercise mandate in 3 ways: to legislate, to oversight, and to represent. And I would dare anyone to tell me where I have failed in any one of those 3 mandates. Yesterday we had public hearings before the Committee on Labour and Social Welfare on my bill to amend the Sports Act to be able to provide resources for the operations and running of the registered county sporting associations. And I was very happy that the turnout was very impressive. We had over 40 sporting disciplines represented from across the country coming to give their views about that particular piece of legislation. I am happy that I came back to the country when all the fanfare and the homecomings are over. It felt a bit like the situation in, I think it's the book of Exodus, when Moses came down from the mountain and found his people had fashioned themselves a shiny new golden calf
to worship.
Yes.
Okay.
But I am sure the excitement will die down. I'm happy that now we are done with the homecomings. People need to get back to work. In fact, in this discussion of banning Harambes, one of the things that we should ban should be these homecomings by public appointed servants.
You agree?
I agree strongly, because what is the point of all that?
Yeah.
What is the point of all that? In addition to banning things like launching projects, let us come to open the complete thing. This thing of there's just a guy whose job is to make those plaques that the president opens, and then I think they even cut it away. Like I have seen in some places, Morara has gone. The plaque disappeared. So along with those things, we need to ban these homecomings, because I personally don't understand this excitement. You've been appointed to an office, you have done nothing at all in that office other than know where your seat is, and then you want to make all this noise in the grassroots telling people, oh, now I'm a big person. The big person should come out in the changes you've brought around in your docket and the things that you've done to help the people of Kenya to move some of the issues that have brought us to this place. So you can expect that members of ODM will continue to execute their mandate to hold these people to account, to be able to ask the relevant questions, to ensure that things are done, and nothing will change.
Will there be a push from, and I want to ask this very clearly.
Yes.
The 3 individuals who are members of the ODM party,
yes,
right, who have now been made cabinet secretaries, are in positions whereby ODM had previously pushed on matters,
yes,
especially in Parliament, had pushed on particular matters for there to be transparency and accountability. Yeah. From where you sit, will there be just as much as a robust push on these fellows who were in the party making the same?
Oh my goodness, they know me. If you ask them, in fact, they don't expect anything less. We are clear that they are not there to implement ODM policies. They are the president's men. They are there to, in whatever understanding of their own understanding of the bottom-up manifesto, that is what they are there to do. And you can expect that we will hold their feet to the fire. I have said, for instance, I was a bit puzzled when I heard Oparanya saying that he will now come for people who have not paid the Hustler Fund. I was with him at Kamkunji saying these people should take this money and they should not return it. So that is hypocrisy. We will call him out for that hypocrisy. He is the one who told those young people. I was there. He spoke after me. I had said the same thing he said. So he cannot then come and tell us that now you have to pay this money back. John Mbadi knows for a fact that if he tries to introduce the bad sections of the finance bill, we will oppose it. So whatever it is they are doing there in that government, they know what they signed themselves into. Yeah. Yes, but they can expect, in fact, they would be disappointed if they would not see robust interrogation of everything they do within government, because that is what ODM is, and that is what the role of Parliament is. Yeah.
Okay,
You know, I was curious when Mheshimiwa talked about the being the minority and ODM not dying still in the Azimio coalition,
Yes.
and that we should not speak for them. Perhaps for clarity, your leader, of course, commonly the Enigma,
Yes.
is in the race for the AUC chairperson, and he mentioned, I believe, if I'm not wrong and I'm not misquoting him, that he will not be very active in local politics as is required. So there is where the questions come and clarifications, because we've had Kalonzo Musyoka saying, well, I'm going to be taking over as the, head or leader of the Azimio coalition.
Yeah.
So where are we really?
Yeah, because I will explain something to you. Politics is, like Ndi himself said, is a contact sport. It requires presence on the ground. So if you're going for an assignment that is going to take you away from the people and to interact with the daily issues, it is possible that you will scale down the level of involvement just by the nature of the role that you're taking up. So that is not to say you have retired, because retirement has certain connotations that you have abandoned that practice and that you have no chance of coming back. That is not what is happening in this particular situation. It is expected, for instance, that if you're going to spend long periods of time outside the country canvassing for votes like he's doing in China, for instance, or even if and when he succeeds, and we pray that he does, the assignment will take you to places outside your political ground. It essentially means that you will not be as active as you could have been. Because it is very easy to be active in politics when you are here in Nairobi or in Homa Bay.
Okay.
But if you are in Kuala Lumpur, somewhere in a conference of African heads of state, it becomes difficult for you to have active role and practice of politics on a day-to-day. So that is what he meant. And that is not to mean that he has retired. On the question of the leadership of Azimio, I can understand the anxiety on the part of Kalonzo, because as a presumptive heir to that particular position, he might have wanted to expedite the ascension to the throne. I will leave judgment as to whether what he's doing is right to the general public, because in my view, first of all, I'm not in a position to judge, because I'm one of those people who has also once announced myself into a position before I was given, and I don't think I'm in a position to judge, but eventually I did get the position. So I can understand his anxiety, but the only rider I would add is that Azimio will only be beneficial to Kalonzo Musyoka if we stay together.
All right.
And one of the things that I want to tell all the members of the coalition is that hakuna kuachana. Hakuna kuachana.
Okay. So
they
in
say
this
hapa Nairobi, mapenzi yako ikiisha, I hotspot you. We will use our love if yours has run out.
To bring
but
together.
Because this coalition is a formidable coalition, and it carries along with it the aspirations of many Kenyans. It would be heartbreaking, I believe, if we were not able to manage the succession in a way that keeps us together, because we represent something for the Kenyan public, and there's many people who have put their hopes in us as a coalition.
This is true. But I have to jump in here because perceived or otherwise, that ODM was or is quite a significant member of Azimio. That the leader of Azimio is an ODM member. Is the party leader of ODM.
Yes.
Right? And so with recent happenings that we have seen, that there seems to have been a marriage between the party leader and the coalition leader and the government of the day, for whom there was significant opposition before all of this happened.
Yes.
And so it waters down expectations, where people are saying, how will you then keep the position which you've clearly stipulated here and being on the same side as government? It is a worry, it is a concern. How do you see that playing out?
Personally, I understand those people who hold those views, but it also requires an explanation of the sort of constitutional setup that we have.
Right.
Even if we had an ODM government, even if the president was from ODM, as a member of the legislature, my job is not to praise government.
Right.
That's not my job. My job as an elected member of parliament is to oversight whoever is at the executive. Now, I can understand those people who express those worries and say, but they say the proof of pudding is in the eating. What you need to do is to observe the conduct of the party over a period of time. It is not something you will be told. You will see. If we abdicate our role as opposition, instead of saying we are going to abdicate, why don't you wait for us to abdicate? Yes. But from where I stand, there is a commitment from majority of the party. In fact, all of the party is very clear that there is no marriage. There is nothing like a marriage. Marriage is not something you can hide. It's not something that is done clandestinely.
But
it is something that is done openly.
It is in the open.
So
but it is in the open. That's what people are saying, Edwin.
Now, let me tell you.
And we've seen some in the past.
One of the things that we need to appreciate, for instance, the discussion that happened around the handshake with President Uhuru Kenyatta, it was something that was formalized. You understand? So, as SG of ODM, I speak for the institution of the party. I can only tell you things that have been processed through the party organs. I am an SG of ODM. I only speak for the party and its organs. If a decision, for instance, has been taken at the Central Committee, it is my responsibility to explain to you that this is the position that the party has taken on X or Y. If it has not been processed through the party, you don't expect me to come here and tell you there's a marriage. Marriages, I have signed marriages between ODM and other political parties. I remember queuing behind all the 26 other secretary generals at KICC to sign ODM into the Azimio marriage.
All right.
I have not done that. Again, I'm still in that marriage. So until that happens, please, you cannot talk about a marriage, because from a political perspective and from a legal political perspective, marriages in between political parties only take effect upon formalization, and then you have to go to the registrar and tell the registrar
it does seem as
that we are in a marriage.
It does seem as though there's some swimming in uncharted waters, and that's why there was a lack of
it's not uncharted
desire
waters.
to
It's not
call
uncharted
it for
waters.
what it is.
One of the things that Kenyans forget is that the political class talk. It is obvious that there are talks between the president and my party leader, and these are conversations that they have in private. In fact, I was surprised. One of the SGs of our affiliate party saying, no, I know for a fact Uhuru did not call you. Bana boss, these are people who call each other, and they will not add you to the call.
the conversation.
Yeah, they will not add you to the call.
It's not a group call.
It's not a group call. Oh, wait, we had sifuna. No. These people talk. And that is the reality of the matter. But when you talk about formal marriages, these things have to be processed, because the discussion around Honorable Raila's bid for AUC and the fact that it requires sponsorship or support from the government, it necessarily means these people will be talking. You know? So the fact that they are talking is not in dispute, and he has said as much, but I can only authoritatively speak on things that are processed through formal party organs and conversations that involve me.
Okay. Yeah. Quick news that we got this morning of, unfortunately, the fire that happened in school in Nyeri County overnight, early this morning, and we've seen the loss of 16 lives. Very, very unfortunate fire that took place. At least 16 people confirmed dead at the Hillside Endarasha Academy in Nyeri County following a fire tragedy last night. National Police Service spokesman Resila Onyango has confirmed one of the dormitories housing the pupils was razed down, killing 16. Quite unfortunate that we have to see that news this morning. Quite a sad one that we've lost 16 young lives in this way. May they rest in peace. But I mean,
that is terrible news. I was just seeing it filtering through, and maybe at this juncture to just say, Paul Sana, we shouldn't have repeats of these school fires. I thought that following the reforms, I think it was following the fire at Kianguli, it was years back. I thought that the Ministry of Education had put in place mechanisms to ensure that this doesn't happen again.
But after that, remember it happened at Moi Nairobi Girls, and that was horrific. And now here we go again.
Sad to see. Very, very sad to see.
Yeah, so my condolences to all those that are affected, and I'm hoping that we in the leadership will be able to do something to ensure that things like this don't continue to happen as we get to interact more with the facts of this particular incident.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Thank you.
First, I would, of course, stand in the same spirit that may their souls rest in peace. It's very sad, and may their families get the comfort. Now, I like that you mentioned something, because earlier on we were deep in politics, but we've also spoken about lost money. People in different counties speaking on revenues, and this particular fourth proposal, revenue sharing formula. I'm very curious, because I'm also seeing, adjacent to that, the Senate is calling an audit of counties' revenue amid corruption claims. If I take us back a bit in hindsight, last year, headlines had it that counties were at the verge of crashing completely. In fact, they were saying, shut down this thing if it's not working. You sit in the Senate, and we'd like to first start with where do you think we are at? Because if counties are asking for a certain amount of money, you have continued to ask them to show first how they, collect their own revenue and what they do with this money. A number of comments coming in are saying, we're not seeing what these governors are doing with the money that is given to them. Where are we, Senator, with this fourth proposal, and what are your thoughts?
Yeah, first of all, I believe that whereas the problem of misuse of funds and corruption are present at both levels of government, there is an inordinate focus on county governments. As a strong believer in devolution, we have not done enough to ensure that devolution works. The money that you're talking about, this year was the first time that the Senate pushed the allocation of counties beyond the 400 billion barrier. 400 billion is how much? Is less than 10% of the 4 trillion, right?
Yes.
Yes, of the amount of money that national government budget, the size of a government national budget is 4 trillion shillings. So it is a drop in the ocean, but that is not to say that we should not follow every cent and coin. Now, there is actually now a discussion in Senate that, the President returned the Division of Revenue Act and the County Allocation of Revenue Act back to us with a proposal to cut down the allocation back to 380, which is less than the amount of money that counties were going to receive. We received last year. As a position, as members of the Azimio coalition, our position is that you cannot reduce the money that goes to counties. It is not possible. So, in fact, the law anticipates some of these situations, and they say that if there is any shortfall in the financing of a budget, that shortfall should be borne by the national government, not by the county governments.
All right.
So you can expect that Sifuna, as a senator of Nairobi, who swore to uphold the constitution and defend counties and their governments, will vote against any attempts to reduce the allocation of money to the counties. There are various challenges that counties face. Do you know that counties are told, this is your allocation this year? Say Nairobi, last year, this year we said they're going to get 20 billion Kenya shillings.
Yeah.
And then there is something else that the Senate passes called a disbursement schedule. This disbursement schedule is supposed to guide the county to know when the money is going to come from Treasury. So you will see that of that 20 billion, it is spread over maybe a 12-month period, and they get maybe 2 billion per month. But it doesn't happen like that. It never happens like that. You can find counties have gone almost 4 months without the exchequer releases from Treasury. Yes. So it is extremely difficult for a county government to operate in that particular sort of, So if, for instance, we have said you're supposed to set aside 3% of your 20 billion for disaster management. But that 3%, at what point do you apply it? Because the money has not come in. It has delayed for 3 months. Then you get maybe a quarterly allocation, then another quarter, then another quarter. What happens when there is a disaster of the level of what we have seen, say, in Kieni, and your county government has no money? So the challenges, by the way, this late exchequer releases contribute largely to the challenges we have at the county governments of even pending bills and all the other things. But we as a Senate have decided that even with those challenges, there is still some money that trickles down to the county governments, and they need to employ that money for the benefit of the people of their respective counties. Most of these counties, if you look at their audits, you'll find challenges that have not left us since before the advent of devolution. For instance, we passed a law that says you cannot spend more than 35% of the money that comes to the counties on recurrent expenditure, and especially employee emoluments. But you have a county government like Nairobi that inherited this huge workforce and that you cannot sack, So you find...
Why can't you sack them?
Because they have employment terms. They were employed during the previous, what is it called? County council, and they're waiting to retire. It would put you into very serious legal quagmire, and you would still have to pay them anyway because they have valid contracts of employment, So that is a challenge. You see county governments pushing the employee emoluments upwards of 60% of all the revenue that comes in.
65 actually.
Yes, if you speak to the CEC for finance in Nairobi County, he will tell you that you see that discussion of the disbursement schedule. That amount that comes per month, if it were to come per month, it is equivalent to the salary of Nairobi for the workers of Nairobi. So it becomes very difficult for us to plan. This is why we also push many of these counties to be able to ensure efficiency in collection of on-source revenue so that they can be able to do some things and execute some projects for the people of their respective counties. So, now, corruption and wastage is a big challenge in the counties, So what happens is the people with the mandate to audit the use of public resources at the Office of the Auditor General.
Yes, they are.
And what happens is, after they prepare the reports, we in the Senate, and I happen to sit on the Public Accounts Committee, we will go through those accounts together with the entities themselves. And we will go to a site to physically examine some of these projects. You have seen us either individually as senators or even as a committee. We have gone to places like Turkana. We have gone to other counties to also see what is happening. Even here in Nairobi, we have had interactions with the Senate Committee on Health, for instance, coming to look at our health facilities. Myself, in my own personal capacity as a senator, I have audited all these projects to do with health, even in sporting facilities, and all these other things. Now, what happens is, we depend on other institutions to actually bring the corrupt to book.
Who?
The EACC. Those are the ones who have the legal mandate. Because what happens is, and I'll give you the example, for the past 2 years or so, over 150 cases have been referred to the EACC by one committee of the Senate, the Public Accounts Committee. And when we ask the EACC, where are we on these cases? You will hear a lot of
just hang on, Senator.
Yes.
Let's look at this process as it plays out.
Yeah.
The Auditor General goes through, as she is mandated to do, through all of this, especially, it is just on expense. It's on spending money, whether it's at the county level, national level, wherever it is.
Absolutely.
If there are queries, these are raised and they form part of a report.
Yeah.
The report for discussion is brought before the Senate because it's captured in its role of oversight.
Absolutely.
So you then look through all these reports that she brings, especially those ones where queries have been raised.
Yes.
What you're telling us is that you take those queries and that you then come up with a further report where there are recommendations as to what needs to be done.
Absolutely.
These recommendations are then now taken to the bodies who have the mandate to deal with any kind of impropriety or things like that.
Correct.
So what you're saying essentially is that you then play a remindery role where you keep saying, hello, EACC, we've told you that this has gone off. You need to do something about it.
Absolutely.
Are you essentially saying that Senate has done its job on the queries that have been raised, but that nothing has been done in terms of requisite action
Absolutely.
to the reports that have been raised?
The committee has had occasion to summon even the leadership of EACC to come, and even the DCI, because some of the criminality requires DCI to be the ones to undertake investigations. Unfortunately, for us as a Senate, we operate within the bounds of the law. There's powers that we have and powers that we do not have. In fact, if you listened or followed the conversation in the Senate, we have gotten to a place where we are so frustrated ourselves, we want to even invoke the power to stop monies going to some of these counties. But then there is the balance to be made between, whether the intended consequence would be to punish the people or to punish the county government. You understand? So, and progressively, we are going to have to address some of the challenges we have in the oversight bodies. The Office of the Auditor General, for instance, complains to us repeatedly that they are underfunded and under-resourced. We have had meetings of the Senate Public Accounts Committee adjourned because officers of the OAG from Kisumu Hub who audit the Nyanza counties were not able to travel. They have no fare, They have no fare. So you can imagine putting an auditor who has no resources at the mercy of a county governor, for instance, who is awash with the money. it is putting them in a position where it's very easy to compromise them. You speak to the EACC, they will tell you the same thing. Now, for instance, our committees have liaisons seconded to our committee to essentially help us as legislators to do this job. We have officers from Treasury. We have an officer from EACC who sits in PAC. We have an officer from, what is the other one? OAG. So they are essentially the eyes and the ears of the committee, and they take us through these processes. But they also complain a lot. There is also a sense in which there's no coordination, and the investigation of some of these cases is so disjointed that the officer seconded to EACC, by EACC to our committee, for instance, has no global view of all the matters that have been referred to EACC by the committee. So you can't ask her when she comes to the meeting. If you ask her, where are we on the case of Turkana, the governor's residence? We went there and we saw it with our own eyes. Somebody claims you have paid 200 million shillings for a project. And when you look at that structure, city, as a person who has also built structures yourself, you can tell that hapa kuna ukora. So she doesn't have that global view, because when they tell us long stories. I don't know if you're interested in these stories, but the truth of the matter is that the system is not working. There is a problem. And the level of even the speed of resolution of cases. It's just the other day that we saw Governor Lenol Kulal, the former governor of Samburu, being sentenced. And I think he's the first governor to be sentenced. And by the way, this guy was impeached over, how many years ago by the Senate, over some of the same issues there. So we need to address all of these gaps. But from the Senate perspective, in all honesty, like the accountability committees are chaired by members of a minority. I am very proud of the chairperson of PAC in the Senate, the Honorable Senator Moses Kajwang, who is a member of ODM. We have done our job so much that as at yesterday, we are examining accounts of 2022-2023, which is the most current account. So nobody can say that, the committees are slacking or that the Senate is not doing its job.
How does it rub off on Senate? If, for example, we say that Senate serves in an oversight capacity, but then we don't see the results of oversight then being applied, because we don't. We can't.
It is frustrating. It is frustrating both for the public and also for the Senate, because for me, I am also somebody who takes pride in results. There is no point of just being busy when there is no output. And that frustration is what has pushed us. If you look at some of the conversations that have been happening in Senate, including amendments to the Powers and Privileges Act to give Senate and Parliament powers to arrest people. We need to have our own cell there to hold people who don't come before Senate committees. This is what enhancing fines for people who don't show up. We moved it from the paltry 500,000 shillings, which people were paying like it's popcorn, and tried to move it to 2 million shillings, so that we encourage or discourage this bad behavior where people are actually ignoring summons of the House, summons of committees of the House, so that we can have that conversation. But I can assure you that if we don't have a global conversation about the gaps in the justice system, let me just say the justice system, the entire thing, from investigation of criminal conduct to the prosecution of these persons involved, then we are really not going to do a service to Kenyans.
Now, just very quickly, I'd like to hear your comments on this proposal.
Yes.
I think it's Senator Ledama who advocated for an amendment to the Public Finance Management Act, citing numerous cases of corruption, of course, some that we know, among revenue collectors contracted by counties. But we saw also Gathungu disagreeing with that argument, citing that such an amendment would perpetuate illegality. Now, for me, listening and following the proceedings, I'd like to understand, because we're looking for solutions here. What do you think of that proposal by
Of course,
Ledama?
it's a brilliant proposal by Senator Ledama, who's also a senator from ODM. Yes. And,
in case you forgot.
The whip of the minority in the Senate. And he's somebody who's, I think, one of the senators who's most well-versed with the PFM. He knows it like the back of his hand. The challenge we're having is that counties are entering into contracts for collection of revenue. But other than the amount that is declared by the collector, for instance, in Nairobi, we used to have people like Jambo Pay, then KRA comes. And if the auditor herself does not have sight of the actual collections, then you are depending on the guy doing the collection themselves to report
what
to
is reported.
Yes, absolutely. And that is the concern that we had. And I think the reservations of the Auditor General is that those would be private entities, and she has no mandate to audit those ones.
Really?
I think that was the basis of her objection. If you read that.
If their work is the public entity.
Absolutely. So for us, really, we need first of all to tighten the reporting mechanisms on the side of the public entity, because there are many allegations about whether the actual collections are reported correctly, or whether they actually end up in the county coffers. And it is one of those areas that everybody knows there is potential for a lot of mischief.
You know, Senator Sifuna, one of the things that technology does is it can enable visibility to anyone.
Yes.
Auditor General, the people who work within the county, and any other body that needs visibility.
I agree.
And that technology can enable you not just to figure out what is collected at the end of the month, on a day as it's collected.
Yes.
You look at it and you know.
If you talk to many of these governors, they will tell you that they have put in place technology that enables them to do this. My governor famously came to our committee one time and he said, yes, I can see from my phone how much has been collected from Bama market today. Yeah? But an audit of that process by our committee in the county assembly returned. In fact,
you faulted that system.
There is a report on the Nairobi County Revenue a collection system that had been prepared by the county assembly, and all of us were waiting for that report to be tabled. I was reading in the papers that somehow something has happened and this report cannot be tabled. So what we have done as Senate, the County Public Accounts Committee, is that we are going to do that investigation ourselves.
Okay.
Yes, we are going to do a deep dive into the Nairobi Revenue Collection System as the County Public Accounts Committee of the Senate. Because whatever games are being played at the County Assembly, I can assure you that the county administration does not have the same leverage over the Senate. And our report, you cannot prevent a report of the Committee of Senate from being tabled. It will not happen. So whoever it is that is playing games with the county revenue system in Nairobi, just know that you will be found out.
The oversight role from county to national still remains very, 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 very important, because it seems as though that is the arm, that is the tool right now that someone will have for asking questions. There are currently individuals who are going around the country who are shining the light on things where money has been spent.
Absolutely.
Where money has been spent and we do not see development happening. We cannot run away from that fact. There are white elephant projects all over the place. Money in the hundreds of millions has been spent, but we do not see development. We had a conversation this morning that if 1 trillion shillings in development were to be in this country, you would see it. Or even if it was over 10 years.
And I agree.
1 trillion.
If there was 1 trillion shillings spent over 10 years for development, we would see it. But the truth of the matter is that we do not. The questions are being asked, but the answers are not being given. It's at your doorstep.
This is something that personally I want to encourage. And I am very proud of some of the gains that we have had from this movement that we have seen over the past 3 months in Kenya is that ordinary citizens have become more civically engaged, and it can only bode well for our democracy and for our country. For the longest time, I've complained, including on this show, that I have felt over the years that Kenyans had outsourced their responsibility under Article 3 to defend the Constitution to one man, to Raila Odinga, so that if Raila Odinga did not say anything, then no one said anything. But I am happy now that Kenyans have realized just how powerful they are, that your voice is powerful. It doesn't matter what title you hold. You could be the smallest person, if we can use that word, but your voice is very, very powerful. And the fact that sisi wote tunamulika all of these issues, it is going to bode very well for our democracy and for our country. So we need to expose these lies everywhere, because as we said during the beginning of this show, is that we see a lot of excitement during the groundbreaking ceremonies, commissioning, launch of projects, even in the county governments, when they are going there to unveil the project and the governor is there with the grader, and a scoop soil kidogo. But after that, nothing happens.
When it's a celebration of the completion.
That's what I'm saying. Yes. So we are also in a space where government policy in this country is influenced only by embarrassment and outrage. We are being governed 24/7 by outrage and embarrassment, because if you don't embarrass people publicly, they will not do the job. So for years, City, we have spoken about the stadium pledges that we had. Cameroon Stadium, which the president told us was historic. And he stood before the public saying it will be complete in 6 months' time. I am happy that it is not just these young people doing it. I have seen newspapers over the past 5 years, every single time, even if it is monthly or by monthly, you will see state of sports stadia in the newspapers. And they send reporters there to give us an update of the actual thing. They go to Wote, they go to Cameroon, and you can tell that there is nothing there. Then they cross-reference with the amount of money that has been allocated to the project, how much has been paid to the contractor, and so on and so forth. So even as we continue to do this, it is something to be celebrated. It is something to be celebrated so that nobody can hide anything. Even if you are Uko down in the village, for as long as you have a camera, you can just take a photo and say, this is the water project that the president told us. It is now 6 months, 6 months, there's no contractor. In Nairobi, I have taken it upon myself. When the county government tells you that the contractor is on site, you go there, because in Nairobi,
you can reach.
It's a very small place. You just go, and I have gone at times. I was being told, City Stadium, there's a contractor. I went there was no contractor. You go to Woodley Stadium, at that time there was no contractor. And I'll be doing those rounds regularly so that we find out where are we with these projects, and you don't get lied to.
What would it achieve?
Senator,
what it achieves is, by the way, let me tell you, exposing lies helps to push the cause of truth forward. I was at this Democratic National Convention in Chicago, and I was listening to a panel. It had Senator Chris Coons was there, Ambassador Rice was on that panel, and there was a representative, I forget her name, from California, and they were talking about the Moderna vaccine factory in Nairobi. I was like, Nairobi.
I am the senator for Nairobi.
Goja tu,
I'm not aware.
Hiyo project iko wapi in Nairobi haswa? Because I'm not aware. And because for them, I don't blame them, because they get fed information. They have not been here. So if there was a vaccine factory in Nairobi, I would know, surely. So if you don't have that information and you're not able to quickly dispel those lies, then you're not helping to advance the cause of truth.
In a very few seconds, City.
Yes. City, as you pay quickly,
just let him say it, because our time is
saying the best slave. There's something about the best slave is the one who thinks he's free. City, you can pay.
Yeah.
This issue about the opposition, government, can legislation help? There are countries that have legislated and opposition works. In Seychelles, the president is appointed by the PM and the opposition leader. Okay? In Argentina, the opposition party appoints the Auditor General. In Poland, the leader of the opposition even once became the prime minister. Now, in Seychelles, again, you find that the president and the leader of the opposition share constitutional appointments.
All right.
So what we have in this country is not unusual. The question is, does our law permit it?
Now, from a purely legal perspective, I can tell you that the law permits a president to tap anyone to his cabinet. What you cannot do, and what the law prevents, is for you to advance the causes of a political party, either if you are an elected official like myself, to advance the cause of a party other than the party that you elected on, or if you are an independent, to join a party, you are required to actually vacate your seat. But the president of any country can decide City Muga is going to be a member of cabinet. There is nothing that stops that. In Kenya, it's not laws that we need. We have bad manners as politicians. It's just political bad manners. Right. And you can't regulate all the bad manners, because every day people come up with creative ways to become bad people. Yeah.
Senator of Nairobi County, Edwin Sifuna, and ODM Secretary General, thank you for being here. Always a pleasure to have you here. Sana. Important to have these conversations, and we need to keep having them.
Absolutely.
Until the next time we meet, thank you very much.
Thank you.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.